Hey, do you want to crochet some little bear plushies with me? They're the perfect size plushie and super cute in any theme. I tried my hardest to make the pattern as low-sew as possible, but still be approachable for beginners. In this video, I'll be showing you how to make a solid color bear with a wavy necklace. If you'd like to see the full pattern with all of the variations and accessories, it's available as a PDF pattern in my shop. I just got the prettiest soft blue color and I wanted to try it out for the bear I'm going to make today. And my idea is to use this sparkly white yarn as his wavy necklace. Even though it's only August, I feel like I'm really behind on my autumn themed plushies, so I'm gonna make a few fall bears today too. I've been having so much fun and definitely procrastinating by making my own safety eyes lately. Here are the best ones I've made so far, so I'm gonna use them for the plushies today, but you can use any type of safety eyes you want. Some other materials you'll need are polyfill, scissors. I'm gonna use a 6.5mm inline crochet hook, some cute stitch markers, a yarn needle, and I prefer to use cotton worsted weight yarn to sew on the face details like the nose and the little bit of eye color if I am going to use the black eyes, but you could use any type of yarn you'd like. I just like the cotton yarn because I think it looks cleaner. Here's an example of another bear pattern I'm working on that's bigger, but I used Bernat blanket for the nose so you could see the difference between the cotton yarn and the Bernat yarn. Because this is a low sew pattern, we're going to be constructing the plushie in a very specific way, so I thought before we even started I would just go over what we're going to do. We're going to make the arms first and set them aside before making the feet, crocheting up into the body, crocheting the arms onto the body, and then crocheting the head and adding the little details. So grab a hook and some yarn and let's make some super cute bears together. We're going to start off by crocheting 2 arms, starting with the magic circle and then chaining 1 and making 8 single crochets into that magic circle. I know it's not technically correct, but I always say chain 1 and don't count it. Sometimes a common mistake is to put your first single crochet into that chain 1 that creates the magic circle, and we just want to completely ignore it and can go into the top of the first single crochet. The next few rows are simple and we're just going to single crochet around for 4 rows total. You can slip stitch and fasten off, and you don't have to leave a super long tail because we're going to be crocheting them on later. I like to stuff them and then set them aside because we won't be using them until row 13. Now that we're finished with the arms, let's move on to start the feet and body of the bear. This is how I join all of my plushie feet, and I feel like it is a little confusing sometimes to people before they get it. So just be careful of the difference between foot 1 and foot 2. Both feet start off the same way by making a magic circle and then 11 single crochets in that magic circle, and then single crocheting into the top of the first single crochet and single crocheting for 2 rows around. But for foot number 1, we're not going to finish the last stitch. We're just going to cut the yarn and take it off our hook and set it aside before making foot 2 in the same way, magic circle, 11 single crochets, single crochet for 2 rows, and then we're going to leave that foot on our hook and start with row 4, part 1, which is single crocheting 11 and then chaining 1. We're going to remove that foot from our hook, slip on the last stitch of foot number 1, and use that loop from the chain 1 to pull through and finish the stitch. And now we're going to want to work around to finish row 4 around foot number 1. And this is what I mean by be careful, because like they look really similar. If they're the same color, you can accidentally go around foot number 2 twice, and then one leg is like really long and the other is short. So yeah, just be careful. Honestly, I think that was the hardest part of the pattern, so from here on out it'll just be smooth sailing. So for row 5, we're going to make 1 single crochet in the chain space and then 11 single crochet around the foot, 1 single crochet in the chain space, and then finish with 11 single crochet around the other foot. We should end right on the stitch marker. For row 6, we're going to be doing an increase row by single crocheting 5 and then creating an increase in the next stitch, and repeating that 4 times. For the next 3 rows, we're just going to be single crocheting around, and you should have 28 stitches for each row. Sorry about the lighting today, it's like Armageddon raining outside. My ring light is working overtime. Yeah, instead of an animal friend in today's video, we have the weather. So now we're going to start decreasing, so if you have ends that you want to tie off, it might be a good time. For row 10, do 5 single crochets and then an invisible decrease, and repeat that 4 times. For the invisible decrease, I like to pull up the front loop only from the next 2 stitches before making a single crochet, which turns 2 stitches into 1. For the next 2 rows, we're basically going to be doing the same thing. For row 11, we're just going to do 4 single crochets and then an invisible decrease 4 times. And for row 12, we're going to be doing 3 single crochets and an invisible decrease 4 times. I don't have a problem waiting until after row 12 to stuff the plushie because I'm using Bernat blanket, but if you're using a thinner yarn, you might want to be like stuffing as you go because we are going to be decreasing to the neck and it will get like skinnier. It might be too small for your hand to fit in. After row 12, we're officially done crocheting the body of the bear, and I like to stuff my plushies firmly, and because this is a low sew, you have to be careful that the neck is stuffed well because you don't want to like floppy neck bear. Okay, so now we're going to attach the arms as we crochet the next row. You can follow what I put on the screen, which is technically what it should be. But if your tension is different or you're using a different yarn, or I don't know, you might have skipped like a stitch on row 3 or something like that, you know. It happens to all of us. Don't feel the need to undo the entire plushie. We'll just work it out here. If that's the case, it might not be exactly what it should be with 4 single crochets, 4 single crochets, 4, 4. So you just feel free to adjust it any way you need to so that the arms are on either side of the body. And it's simple. You're just inserting the hook through both sides of the arm and then through the stitch on the neck like you normally would, and just regular single crochet to attach them. And just work your way around and do the same thing for the second arm. The only thing is you should end on the stitch marker. That should be the last stitch that connects the second arm. Once they're attached, we can move on to start making the head. So for the next 2 rows, we're going to be increasing. For row 14, we're going to do 1 single crochet and increase, repeated 8 times. And for row 15, we're going to do the same thing, only 2 single crochets and then an increase, repeated 8 times. I do like not having to sew the head on, but it is kind of awkward crocheting with like an already stuffed plushie. Sometimes it's easy just to put it on your lap and crochet. Alright, now super easy part, we're almost done. We're just going to single crochet around for 4 rows. Something you might find helpful before adding the eyes is to create the snout and little nose. So I'll show you how to do that now. It's really easy. Just make a magic circle and then chain 1 with 8 half double crochets in the magic circle. And a half double crochet is the same as a single crochet, only you're just going to be yarning over before you make it. Slip stitch to join and you'll have a little round. And then I like to use the cotton yarn to sew on a little nose before adding it. And the reason this is helpful to do before adding the eyes, it'll just help you visualize where you want the eyes to be, and if you want to make the nose a little bigger or smaller. When I sew on the nose, I loop over 3 of the half double crochets, and I usually end up doing it like 5 or 6 times until I like the look of it. And then I go up through the center and underneath the nose to make a little mouth. You should experiment and make it however you like though. Now that the nose is completed, we can put our eyes on the plushie. I like to place mine 6 visible stitches apart, and you can test to see if you like the look of the eyes with the nose before you secure them. I really believe the face of the plushie is the most important part because it holds all of the emotion. So definitely experiment because one little change really affects how the plushie looks. So feel free to move stuff around however you like it. We're going to start decreasing to close the top of the head. So now is the best time to make sure your neck is super stuffed and your head isn't going to be flopping around. So for row 20, we're just going to do 2 single crochets and then an invisible decrease. And for row 21, we're going to do the same thing, only 1 single crochet, invisible decrease. And you can keep stuffing your head a little bit more after each row to make sure that it's consistent with the rest of the plushie. Okay, we did it. We're on our last row and we're just going to invisible decrease around. We can leave a long tail and fasten off because we are going to use that tail to sew the top of the plushie closed. The way I like to do this is to just go around and loop into each front loop only of each stitch. And that way when we pull it close, it'll be pretty flat. And then I'll just work my way over. If I see like any holes or anything, I'll close them. And then I tie a knot 3 times before hiding the knot inside the plushie and trimming the end. Now that we're finished with the body of the plushie, we can start to add the little details like the nose. And the reason I don't suggest sewing it on when we make the eyes is because stuffing a plushie can sometimes change its shape. And you don't want to like sew it on and then you end up stuffing it and the nose is like really crooked or something. That would just be a bummer. So I just wait until it's stuffed to sew it on. I usually like to leave one single crochet space between the eye and the nose. I don't stuff the nose area at all, but you can if you'd like to. Okay, now the face is done and it looks super cute. Now there's two different ways we can add the ears. I did a crochet version because I know that people really dislike sewing pieces onto plushies, but I don't mind it. I think it's just easier to adjust how the finished look of the plushie is going to be just by sewing them on. So I just make a magic circle and then I make 7 double crochets and fasten off. And then you can really adjust them, and like the smallest changes, just like the face, really affect the way the plushie looks. I make 2 ears and leave long tails for sewing them on, and then I sew them on from about the top of row 18, row 19 to row 21, 4 stitches away from the eye on the side of the head. Okay, so that's how I like to sew them on, but I wanted to show you how to crochet them on too, so I'm gonna go make an autumn themed bear really quickly and I'll be right back to show you how to do that. So here he is. I found this really cool color, and it's one of those colors that doesn't look the same online as it does when you actually get it. And it's called Melon, but it's the perfect light orange. And these might be the coolest eyes I've made, and it goes with it. Okay, so we're gonna start on the right side of the bear and insert our hook and then make a slip stitch. And then we're gonna move 1 stitch back and then make a double crochet in that stitch. And because like it's kind of funny working this way, instead of working over and over again into this stitch on the plushie's head, which would make it kind of awkward, we're going to work into the bottom of the first double crochet. We're just going to insert our hook and make 6 more double crochets in there. For moving forward 1 stitch and then slip stitching. You can cut your yarn and fasten off, and then I like to pull as tight as I can on the ends, and then I use my crochet hook to bring the top thread down so I can tie them together and hide them inside the plushie. Now for the left side ear, we're basically going to be doing the same thing, only mirrored. So we want to slip stitch on the top and kind of try to make it equal with the other ear. And then you make 1 double crochet, working in the base of that double crochet. So you make 6 double crochets and then slip stitch 1 row under. I take back what I said earlier. I like crocheting them on too. It just looks a little different to me. But I think it's great for like when you're just in the zone and working and you don't feel like picking up a needle and stopping to sew it. So now for the little bear, I wanted to show you how to make an accessory. I made 3 different accessories for the bear pattern, and at first I was thinking about using a sparkly white yarn, but I think it would be really cool to keep going with the fall theme and make it like a little pumpkin bear. I'll show you how to make the wavy necklace because it's my favorite from the pattern. So the way I like to do this is to crochet the wavy necklace separately and then just loop it around the bear's neck and sew it shut. So I'm gonna chain 25 so that's tight around my bear's neck, but the number might be different for you depending on what type of yarn you're using. And I usually chain 25, but for this bear it felt a little loose, so I ended up taking 2 away. But I should have just kept them because the next step is to chain 2 because it counts as a double crochet. And then working in the 3rd chain from the hook, we're going to put 2 double crochets in there. And then we're going to make 3 double crochets in each chain. It's a little annoying to have to put 3 double crochets in each one, but I think it's worth it because it makes a giant, super wavy, curly Q thing. And I just like how much wavier it is than 2 double crochet in each chain. So I think it's worth it, and it's only for like 25 stitches, so straighten out the big curly Q. And place the starting chain side of it against the neck of the plushie. I just sew back and forth a few times to join it before tying the ends and hiding the knot inside the plushie. And then I just fix him up a little bit so he looks extra cute. I hope you guys liked the tutorial, and I'm really proud of myself for making this because this is my first like medium-sized plushie tutorial, and it's definitely more involved than the smaller ones I've done, like the birds and stuff. But yeah, thanks for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.